your mind will not stop. It is 3 in the morning, and you are turning the same 3 thoughts over, like stones in a river that never smooths them. The conversation from 4 days ago, the decision you have not made, the message you are still composing in your head to someone who has probably forgotten you exist. You are exhausted, not from doing, from thinking about doing. And here is the part that frightens you a little when you are honest. You have started to notice that thinking harder is not making anything clearer. It is making everything heavier. You approach the same decision from a 4th angle, a 5th, a 12th, and every angle reveals another risk you had not seen before. So you stop. You wait until tomorrow. And tomorrow the mind starts again from the beginning, as if nothing had been thought at all. The people around you seem to move, imperfectly, sometimes badly, but they move, and you are still here. Something is wrong, but it is not what you think it is. And a general who wrote The Art of War 2,500 years ago diagnosed your condition with terrifying precision. Sun Tzu was not a philosopher of the mind. He was a strategist. His concern was not thought as an abstract activity. It was thought as it existed in the actual moment of consequence, the hour when a decision had to be made, and the wrong decision would cost lives. The Art of War is not a spiritual text. It is a manual for how intelligent people fail and how they can stop failing. And what Sun Tzu observed from a lifetime of watching brilliant generals lose entire campaigns was this. The commanders who lost were rarely the ones who thought too little. They were, more often than not, the ones who could not stop thinking. He wrote, "The general who loses makes many calculations before the battle is fought, but not the calculations that decide the outcome." Read that slowly. It is not a defense of thoughtlessness. Sun Tzu is telling you something far more difficult to hear. He is telling you that the volume of your calculation has almost no relationship to the quality of your decision. You can consider every angle. You can weigh every risk. You can build an elaborate architecture of contingencies in your mind that accounts for outcomes you will never encounter. And at the end of all of it, when the moment of decision arrives, you will not be more prepared. You will be more paralyzed. Because the mind that will not stop is not calculating. It is defending. It is defending you from something. Sun Tzu saw this with a strategic clarity that most modern advice on decision-making has never approached. He understood that behind excessive calculation, there is almost always a fear, not of the wrong outcome, but of being the one who chose it. Now, we have to go deeper, because the problem is not that you think too much. The problem is what you are actually doing when you think. You believe you are analyzing. You are not analyzing. You are auditioning. You are running your future actions through a mental theater in which every possible observer is present. What will they think if you do this? What will he say if you choose that? How will it look 3 years from now if the decision you made today turns out to be wrong? This is not strategy. This is performance rehearsal. And performance rehearsal has no end because there is always another observer to imagine, another future critic whose approval must be secured in advance. Sun Tzu wrote, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." Read what he is doing there. He places knowing yourself first, before the enemy, before the terrain, before the strategy. Because he understood strategically that the overthinking mind does not know itself. It knows the imagined judgment of others. It knows the shape of anticipated criticism. It knows exactly how it will feel to be blamed, but it does not know what it actually wants, because it has spent so many years calculating what it should want that the original desire has been buried under decades of accommodation. The exhaustion you feel is not the exhaustion of hard thinking. It is the exhaustion of a mind that has been performing for an invisible audience for so long that it can no longer hear its own voice. You are not tired because your problem is complex. You are tired because you are trying to solve your problem while simultaneously managing the imagined reactions of every person who might witness your solution. Every consideration is doubled. Every option is filtered through a phantom jury. And the jury is never satisfied because the jury is not real, and no real answer can appease an imaginary court. Sun Tzu names the escape from this in a strategic principle that most readers pass over too quickly. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe he is facing. Water does not deliberate about which way to move because water is not divided from itself. It does not have an internal committee debating whether flowing left will be judged more harshly than flowing right. It responds to the terrain directly. You have lost this capacity, not because you are broken, because somewhere in your life you learned that responding directly to the terrain was dangerous, that the safer strategy was to think longer, to consider more angles, to build the internal architecture of justification thick enough that no one could ever accuse you of having acted without sufficient care. But here is what Sun Tzu saw, and what almost no one wants to hear. The mind that cannot stop thinking is not more careful, it is more afraid. And the fear is not of the wrong decision. The fear is of being the one who made it. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war. Defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. The victorious general in Sun Tzu's strategy is not the one who has calculated more. He is the one who has resolved something inside himself before the calculating begins. He has stopped auditioning. He has decided that he can bear the outcome of a decision, any outcome, because he has stopped requiring the imagined jury's permission to have made it. The overthinking is not a strategy. It is a symptom. It is the mind's attempt to solve a problem that calculation cannot solve. The problem of being visible and imperfect and responsible for your own life. No amount of thinking removes that condition. You can consider every angle for the rest of your life, and you will still, at the end of it, be the one who chose, or the one who did not. You have been waiting for a certainty that the mind is structurally incapable of producing. And every day, the ground is being taken by people who stopped waiting. There is a difference between deliberation and delay. Deliberation has a shape. It has a beginning and an end. It has a criterion, a way of knowing when enough thought has been thought. Delay has no shape. It expands to fill whatever time it is given, and no criterion for stopping ever arrives, because delaying was never trying to reach an answer. It was only trying to postpone the moment of commitment. Learn to feel the difference. When you are truly deliberating, thinking generates clarity. Each hour of consideration reduces the number of viable options. When you are delaying, thinking generates more thinking. Each hour reveals another angle you had not yet worried about. Sun Tzu did not counsel his generals to think less. He counseled them to know when calculation was working and when it had begun to work against them. Second, notice what you are actually calculating. If every branch of your thought terminates in, "And what will they say?" you are not analyzing your options. You are managing your reputation. That is a different problem, and it cannot be solved by thinking about the original problem more carefully. You can only solve it by refusing the assignment of never being the person who chose wrong. Third, choose the smallest possible act. Not the perfect one. The smallest one that moves the situation from imagination into the actual terrain. The mind cannot resolve a hypothetical because hypotheticals have no ground. But once an action has been taken, the ground exists. Water shapes the ground because the ground is there. The person who has stopped overthinking has not become more decisive. They have become less afraid. The decisiveness is the outcome. The freedom is the cause. Somewhere along the way, quietly, they stopped requiring the world to agree with them before they could move. They accepted that they would sometimes choose wrong, that some people would be disappointed. And when they accepted this, the interior noise that had cost them years of sleep began to quiet. Not because they had figured out the right answer, because they had stopped believing that a right answer arrived at in advance was what life required of them. Sun Tzu called this knowing yourself. He placed it before everything else in the art of war, before the enemy, before the terrain, before the calculation. Know yourself first. And what he meant at the deepest strategic level was this: know what you are actually afraid of. Because until you know that, every hour you spend thinking is really an hour you are spending running from it. You have been thinking hard enough. Now think honestly. If something in this reached you, leave one word in the comments. Just one word. The word that names the thought you have been unable to stop. If you want to sit with this longer than 13 minutes allows, there is a companion guide waiting below. This is Mind Timeless.